Alright, Algebra 1, Chapter 1.1, Intro to Algebra. It's going to be reviewed, so we're going to move kind of quick. Your terms in this section are going to be algebraic expression. It's a collection of numbers and letters combined using arithmetic operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division to represent a single value. Basically, in a fancy way, all that means is that something like, I'm just going to make this up, we'll say 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. That's really just one number. The problem is we don't know what that number is because we don't know what x is. But let's just say, for example, if we were to let x equal 0, then you would have 2 times 0 squared plus 3 times 0 plus 1. Well, 3 times 0 is 0, that cancels out. 0 squared is 0 times 2 is 0, that cancels out, which means that all of this really just equals in this scenario. Alright? So an algebraic expression just represents one number. It just may represent it as several different terms. Okay? That brings us to our next one, terms. Terms are quantities that are separated by a plus or a minus. So in this case, we'll say this is one term because it's separated by the plus. This is one term, and this is one term. So in this one we have 1, 2, 3 terms. Okay? We can break that down a little bit further. In the first term of 2x squared, we have the 2 is a numeric coefficient. And you will probably hear me call it a coefficient more than anything. I'm not going to say numeric coefficient every time. It'll mostly just be coefficient. Then your x is your variable. Okay. So the variable is just the unknown. It just represents something that we don't know yet. The two of those things together, all of this, are factors. Kind of like, we'll do an example of 6 has two factors of 2 and 3. Okay? 2x squared has two factors of 2 and x squared. Okay, those two things are the same thing. It just looks funny because of that letter. Alright. Next, we will go to exponents and bases. So you have, we'll go back to that 2x squared. Your base is this guy right here at your base. This guy is your exponent. The exponent tells you how many times to multiply the base by itself. So 2 to the third is equal to multiply the base by itself 3 times, which equals 8. Alright. We're going to go to some examples that'll be comparable with your homework now. Practice 1.1. Alright, so number 2. It wants us to rewrite 3 times m times n without the dots. So there's 2 different ways. You could do it this way, but I can tell you the most common and the most efficient is going to be this way. Maybe not right there. Okay, let's pick one out that's got a little more to it. Let's look at number 6. We've got 1/5 times x squared times y. Okay, that would be the same thing as this is one way to write a correct answer. The most common would be just 1/5 x squared y. But I just want to point out another way to write this same thing would be x squared y over 5. Because it would be the same thing as 1/5 times x squared over 1 times y over 1, which would give you x squared y over 5. Alright, so get number 8. Wants us to identify the numeric coefficients and the number of terms in each expression. So something like x, y. Well, it's one term, we know that. But what about the coefficient? Alright, there's nothing, no number in front of it. When it's like that, it's going to be an understood 1. So it's going to be 1. Okay? Not real complicated, but it's something you can't forget about. Let's look at number 12. We've got 15 B, C, D plus 11R minus 12X plus 20Z. Okay, so terms, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Coefficients. We have 15, 11. Because of that minus, it's going to be negative 12 and 20. Okay, so on those, don't make them harder than they are. It's really not that bad. Okay, let's do a couple more. Look at number 20. We've got 3x squared y squared z. So it wants to know the bases. Okay, on the bases we have Let's see. All right, so I want to point out something on this one. That's really the same as 3 to the first power times x to the second power times y to the second power times z to the first power. So our bases are going to be 3. Remember we talked about that understood 1 right here. Understood, scratch that. 3, then x, y, z. Okay, our exponents are 1, 2, 2, and 1. All right. So I don't think we need to do a whole lot more. You've got some on your homework to give you some practice at it. So we'll let you get to that, and you can always come back to this if you have questions.